To get all of the quick boring stuff out of the way first, my name is Jeremy Horowitz. I will be your host today. I work for the partnerships team at Daasity, where we are here to bring leading e-commerce brands insights to help drive their business forward. A little bit of housekeeping. Everybody's on mute, but please, if you have anything that you want to say or share with the panel, drop it in the chat below. Also, Nikki and Sarah from my team will be on to help if there's any audio issues or anything pops up, or if you just want to send them a hey. We have a Q&A module also below. So if there's any questions that you want to ask any of the panelists or the entire panel, please feel free to drop them throughout the entire presentation. We'll get to them as they come up, and then we'll also have a dedicated Q&A section at the end. And then just so that everybody is aware, we will record this and share this out later. So if there's anything that maybe you missed or you want to go back and reference, we'll be sharing that out as well. So now to the good stuff. Probably why you all are here is our incredible panelists. So thank you all for coming. I just want to give an opportunity for everyone to introduce themselves. So Amy, why don't you give us a quick bio on you, Visature, and what you all are working on?
Thank you so much, Jeremy. So I am Amy Slater, head of email marketing over at Visature. Visature is an e-commerce marketing agency. We have over 165 clients, manage over $1 billion in revenue, and actually the fastest growing agency in Google's premier partner retail vertical. So we have multiple service channel options, including email, which is what brings me here today. But we do email, paid media, SEO, dev, creative. So definitely just kind of spanning the whole space with experts in each channel.
Great. Eric, how about yourself?
Hey there, Eric Genelone, Chief of Staff at J&P Park Acquisitions. We actually operate 4 brands dedicated to customers and bringing to life their home and making a welcoming home. So one of our brands is Van Dyke's, and that is a home restoration and specialty accessories brand that where you can find those types of things that you need for any sort of renovation, small or big. Wayside Gardens is where you would come to flesh out the rest of your garden with things like perennials, trees and shrubs, anything to kind of bring that landscape to life. Park Seed is our 3rd brand, and that is dedicated to seeds and growing supplies and helping that gardener from the novice to the master gardener. And then the last little bit is Jackson & Perkins, and that's where we're primarily going to be, where I'm going to be drawn from today. During non-holiday times, we are known for live, prolifically growing roses. And during the holiday season, we are known for decorated trees, colorful amaryllis, and evergreen wreaths and trees.
Awesome. Callie, what are you working on over at Black Halo?
So my name's Callie Liebeck. I do everything e-commerce and digital marketing for Black Halo. Email marketing, text message marketing, Facebook and Instagram ads, Google ads. I oversee all of that, as well as the day-to-day operations of an e-commerce site. So fulfillment, customer service, and all of that fun stuff, and also social media. Black Halo, for those of you that aren't familiar, is a women's contemporary brand. We sell tailored dress wear, so a lot of dresses, jumpsuits, event wear, perfect outfits for the holidays if you're needing a holiday outfit, but also good stuff for homecomings, proms, different galas that you might be attending, and then also perfect for work wear, so big meeting or job interview, that kind of stuff.
Great. Cheyenne, what about yourself?
My name is Cheyenne. I'm the CRM specialist over at Andy Swim. We're a D2C swimwear company. We operate in Australia and in the US, and I manage our email marketing and SMS across both of our sites.
Great. Gabe, what are you working on?
Yeah, thanks so much, Jeremy. So my name is Gabe Macaluso. I'm the Director of Customer Success at OmniSend. OmniSend is an omni-channel marketing automation platform. So we specialize in email, SMS, and web push notification. And we primarily work with e-commerce retailers like Callie at Black Halo to help them grow their revenue.
Very cool. Dan, why don't you bring us home with a quick pitch on Daasity?
So I'm Dan, CEO and co-founder of Daasity. We are a data analytics platform for direct-to-consumer brands, helping take all of the data from a lot of different variety of sources, your e-commerce, your email, your SMS, your marketing, bring it all in together and giving you rich, deep analytics to help you make better decisions.
Awesome. So we have an incredible panel. We're going to dive right into the questions. So I think first, probably one of the big questions on everyone's mind is promos, deals. They seem to be getting pulled in earlier and earlier, especially with Prime Day already coming and going. So how do you think about your holiday campaigns and deals and that promotional schedule this year with everything being so extended? So Eric, how are you all viewing this over at your brands?
Yeah, so for us, thanks for the question. There are a couple of things that we looked at. Number one is there's just so much risk at having such a high percentage of your sales come from this concentrated period of 3 weeks between Thanksgiving and Christmas, where you don't know what externality event is going to happen, which could affect your customers and throw everything off a loop. So we definitely recommend starting early, just to kind of smooth out that demand curve and that demand pattern. And so I think this year, a lot of brands looked at Amazon, they looked at Target, they looked at Walmart, they looked at Best Buy, and saw an opportunity to get in front of customers earlier and kind of extend that holiday season.
Very cool. So Amy, how are you all seeing this across all the different brands that you work with at Visiture?
Yeah, so I think there are a couple things there. One is I think Prime Day was actually a little bit of a gift for marketers, giving us a little bit of a glimpse on buyer intent for Q4. I think that's the big thing that everyone's kind of been spinning about is how does this year look with buyer intent? And I know that they had like 2 of their most successful days. So something for us to think about moving into Q4. I will say, we always plan for a longer holiday season. I have worked with many of the brands I worked with last year had better single success days. So single revenue days in the days and weeks leading up to Black Friday than they actually did on Black Friday. So to Eric's point, we want to roll those out a little bit more. We don't have to contend with inbox noise. We don't have to contend with just, all of the functionality that has opportunity to go down during a really, really heavy send period. So roll them out, but roll out differing promotions, differing levels, thresholds, just to keep it fresh.
Interesting. Very cool. Okay, Dan, what are our brands seeing across everyone that we work with?
Yeah, so definitely we're seeing a lot of people launch their holiday promotions a lot earlier this year. And I think that's really important because for many of the merchants, you're already probably getting feedback from logistics providers around UPS, FedEx being kind of at capacity, right? Or asking for surcharges. And so you want to move some of that order volume up. And so that's something that we used to do at some of the brands where my team used to work, where knowing that we're going to be capacity constrained, if you wait till the end, you really want to sort of pull stuff up. And so that's really important to start those promotions earlier. And if you're looking at any of the emails, you're starting to see already people saying, hey, Black Friday, Cyber Monday deals already. I've seen a bunch in my inbox this morning.
Yeah, definitely. So Cheyenne, how are you all approaching this time period over at Andy?
So we're going to start teasing at the beginning of November that something big is coming, and we're going to be kind of giving our best and most engaged customers the opportunity to sign up for that early access to our sale. But we're not going to be officially launching our big blowout until like the beginning of that week of Black Friday. But during this off season, it's kind of our off season right now. We're a swimwear company. We've been pulsing a lot of smaller sales just to keep our customers engaged. And we're going to be doing a lot of that carrying into the beginning of November before we launch our big sale. Just a lot of those smaller sales to kind of get people excited, keep people engaged.
Yeah, very cool. Some revenue generating events, but really build that momentum into the big event. Nice. Callie, what are you all working on over at Black Halo?
Yeah, so we've got about a 3-week long promotion, similar to what Amy had mentioned earlier, creating different deals, making people want to come back, creating that demand that, that need to buy something different, the different sale, that kind of thing is what we're really focusing on. But we're also focusing on really giving our VIP customers, special treatment. They helped us along through the pandemic that is still ongoing, and it's been a rough year. So the people that have been by our side, we're definitely launching that part early. But the earlier the better. You want to get people in before they've spent all their holiday money. So if you wait till Black Friday or Cyber Monday, I think you'll be a little late.
Yeah, definitely very competitive to get into the consumer budgets this year. Gabe, what are you all seeing across all the different brands that you work with over at OmniSend?
Yeah, the big thing that we've been encouraging our brands to work with is basically having different stories or timelines to help increase the cadence of your sends. Like one of the homeware brands we're working with, we've kind of set up a schedule with them where it's, prepping your home for holidays is sort of their first campaign. So you're starting to see those emails, not necessarily just calling out the discount for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, but just about the timeline. So prepping your home for holiday. Then as we get closer, it's buying gifts for your friends and family. And then as we get even closer, it's about treating yourself. So we've kind of created a 3-part sort of story, if you will, as we don't just go straight for discount, but create the story to make sure that they're all set up. So that when holiday comes, they're all set. They've treated themselves. They bought gifts for others. And they've got their home all prepped for whatever holiday events they're going to hold.
Yeah, definitely. I love the treat yourself concept because especially this year, like people aren't traveling. They probably haven't done as much to they probably need a little bit of that retail therapy. Very cool. So with this year being so different and kind of as we just mentioned, I think informing the strategy has probably been a little bit more difficult than in previous years. So what data points are you all using to really inform the strategy that you've put together so far? So Cheyenne, I'm going to put you in the hot seat first.
So for Q4, we have a heavy focus on repeat customers. So I've just been really heavily looking at our repeat customer numbers, looking at our repeat purchase rates. And then given that it's our off season, I've been kind of trying to manage the frequency of our email sends. So I've been looking at our unsubscribe rates to just make sure that we're not over messaging people, but also still looking at our engagement metrics, like our open rates, our click rates, just to make sure that our customers are still staying engaged with our brand. So it's been like a balance of not over messaging during this off season, but also making sure that our lists are staying healthy and people are still staying engaged for when we do have our kind of bigger initiatives towards the end of Q4.
Definitely. Yeah. Keeping that list up to date and fresh is going to be really important. So Gabe, kind of in that vein, what metrics should merchants be looking at?
No, it's a great one to think about. And I think what we've been preaching is exploring the omni-channel piece of it. So starting to collect names for SMS and collect names for web push. Web push is a unique channel in that most people don't think of it as a go-to, but it's actually really, really successful. And we've seen when people put in multiple channels of communication within their automations, we've seen a dramatic increase in revenue. So I think just sort of starting to tease and test out SMS can be a big hurdle to get over. And so people are a little bit nervous or apprehensive about it. So we always encourage people set up a pop-up to start collecting those SMS opt-ins or at checkout and just see how quickly is your list growing? Is that a channel that people want to hear you from? And so we're looking at that contact growth over time kind of metric to see, are we seeing more people sign up now looking for that deal, or is it kind of on par with what we've seen the rest of the year?
Very interesting. So Callie, what are the metrics that really have helped inform Q4 strategy for you all this year?
Yeah, like Gabe mentioned, we have had MMS and SMS in our pop-up since we first started with them, but haven't really utilized that piece of it until, the holidays. So I'm doing some testing, not really doing too much MMS or SMS to get in, people annoyed before the big holiday push, but starting to really understand those numbers and where people are coming from. But we also have spent a lot of time analyzing our email marketing customers, making the segments that make sense and creating campaigns that, create results. With the upcoming election and holiday season, prospecting ads have super high CPMs, and just want to make sure we're utilizing and increasing what works while we're not, getting rid of prospecting altogether. We're changing our focus based off of, what we're finding in our email and MMS analytics.
Yeah, definitely a good time to shift over to own channels. So for some brands we've been talking to, their CPMs have jumped 30% in the past couple of weeks. So definitely those more cost affordable channels are a great time to really leverage them this year. And so Eric, what are you all looking at? What data points are you all using to inform your strategy this year?
Yes, we planned out our fiscal year about a year in advance. So when COVID hit in early March, we reevaluated everything, which I'm sure a lot of folks on this call did. So our product mix, our inventory, our staffing, and our marketing for the quarter, just kind of everything for the fourth quarter and for the rest of the year just kind of got reevaluated. And we looked at it through the lens of open rates, return on advertising spend, but also through the lens of where we thought unemployment would be, where we thought people's emotional state would be, whether it was early summer or right now. And then kind of where we thought things would be with a contentious election cycle. So those are really hard to define data points, but they just kind of go into the harder data points that's already been discussed and helps us kind of determine a path forward on how we want to market ourselves, what messages we want to be putting out there, and how much inventory we want to carry.
Yeah, definitely. So Dan, I know we have a lot of data points that we can track, but what are a couple that are really helping and informative for a lot of merchants heading into this prime time?
Yeah, for me, I think there's two that are really important. And I kind of echo sort of Eric's sentiment around, we've never been in a holiday period like this, where there's so many sort of new variables around e-commerce being such a big percentage of sales, and constraints that we're going to have on logistics, and then all this stuff just going on out there. Is there going to be another lockdown or not? And so what I think about is two things. One is you have to measure your open rates, because your open rate is going to be critical around, is just the subject line working of the content, and not even thinking about, you need to track these like on a daily basis to understand, so you can react very quickly and be very dynamic to shifting. You may have planned to do something in 2 weeks, and next week you have to find it. You have to shift that strategy around what's that email subject going to be. And then the second piece is that click to open rate, because that's what drives the content. It's not just the click rate, it's that what percentage of the population that opened your email actually clicked through. And we're going to have to be prepared to have to make last minute adjustments. The brands that I've worked for, we wouldn't know the week before Christmas. We actually had to, we were making emails the day before because it depended upon what happened yesterday. Do you have product? Can you actually, what's your cutoff day, et cetera? And so just being being able to adapt fastly, very quickly, by having those metrics and using those two metrics to really drill in and say, this is what we're going to go with.
Yeah, definitely. And this year, with all of the crazy supply chain issues that people are forecasting, that's going to be even more interesting. And it'll be interesting to see how far everyone can push those last couple of dates. So Amy, what data points are you all looking at across your brands over at Visitor for this Q4 period?
Echoing again what Eric and Dan had mentioned, this is a different year in terms of, we're maybe not leaning as much into some historical data as we might have in previous years. And I'm sure every marketer on this call will know, like when they're trying to compare Q2 of 2020 to Q2 of 2019, the numbers are just all over the place. So what that means is we're considering recency bias a little bit more. So we're seeing kind of, again, to what Dan had mentioned, we're seeing what happened last week and making adjustments to that. We're making adjustments to forecasts. We're calibrating. One thing I to that point, when you're looking at data of the now, a couple key things that tie together. I like to look at, your contact acquisition rate. So your email capture rate, using those pop-ups, SMS capture, using those pop-ups. And then also looking at what your conversion rate is for your welcome and onboarding series. So, connecting those two pieces, because that gives you a really good idea, and it helps inform, like, okay, if I know that X amount of new contacts added are going to convert on the first touch point of our welcome series, it allows you to determine like how much money you're willing to spend in acquiring that contact. So something to consider there.
Yeah, definitely. And love that you brought that up. Segues me perfectly into my next question of, what changes to workflows and automations are you making, or are you making any of those changes during this time period? So Callie, are you all doing anything to support holiday in your automations or workflows?
Yeah, definitely. Our automations, which before really honing in on email marketing, I never really thought the automations worked other than like an abandoned cart, but they in such a big portion of the revenue. Welcome series is extremely important, actually building out that flow, including MMS and SMS, including, push notifications are all really important. But you also want to make sure that your creative in the automation makes sense. So we're definitely switching up the creative in all of our automations, whether it be product browse abandonment, the welcome series, cart abandonment. All of those will include something about holiday. You want to create that sense of urgency. Like, if what you were browsing you liked, you should buy it now because it'll be gone. So we'll be doing a lot with the creative, but then also really working on those flows. Right now, for our welcome series, it goes about a week. We've got 2 texts and 3 emails. So we're going to want to, bring the gap in between those things a little closer together, make sure that people are getting there, because we will have issues with inventory. And if someone likes something, you want them to really purchase it right then and there, so you don't lose that sale.
Yeah, definitely. I'm really a big fan of playing into the natural scarcity of the situation to drive more urgency, because that is one of the always the best ways to drive results. So Cheyenne, what updates are you all making over at Andy?
So heading into the holiday season, I've definitely tried to optimize all of our post-purchase flows to try to build like that custom experience based on whatever suit you purchased. So if you purchase like a certain suit, you're going to get a kind of customized post-purchase journey with information that's kind of relevant to what you purchased, to kind of combat that like post-purchase, like, did I make the right decision, and kind of help combat that a little bit. But also, to echo what Kaylee said, definitely making sure across the board that all of my abandonment flows have that holiday messaging. So like if you come to our site during this time period, you're going to know what offer is on the site, you're going to be reminded about it, and you're going to know, to Kaylee's point, that now is the best time to purchase.
Yeah, definitely. Anything to curb buyer's remorse, because I think what none of us really talk about until probably December or January is post-holiday is return season. And so anything we can do to help the supply chain and support team on that front is greatly appreciated. So Gabe, what recommendations or what are you seeing as kind of best practices across all accounts?
Yeah, no, Callie and Cheyenne kind of hit it on the head, where it's so important to reevaluate and just kind of review all of your workflows. So 2 recommendations I make is, 1, I ask all my customers to get a friend to do a test order, or someone like outside of their normal email marketing program, and kind of walk through that customer journey. Because oftentimes we're so comfortable with it that, like, if we really think about the last time we put ourselves through a welcome flow or had somebody we trusted to go through that flow all the way through post-purchase, it's probably been a long time. And then the other thing, obviously, like Callie and Shane are going to be doing this, but when you review your automations, if you have a 20% off for signing up or a 20% off incentive in your abandoned cart, you've got to take those out, especially around holiday. The using the emotion of scarcity, hurry up, you're going to look awesome in this, is going to save you margin, because you're already doing Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales anyway. And so unless you're planning on stacking those discounts, which none of us want to do, just eliminate those discounts altogether, and just remind people that they need to come back and purchase, or just call out the sales that you're already having.
Yeah, definitely. Back in my day, we used to set calendar notifications of when to remove them and then when to add them back in, because you always forget something. So Amy, anything else on the automations or workflow side that you see as big wins during this time?
Another thing that I would look at the actual journey and the length of the journey, and considering whether you want to shorten it or lengthen it. Probably we would lean into shortening it, just because you can imagine that your cadence is going to be increasing. Having said that, so maybe you want to shorten some of your standard workflows, but you want to lengthen something like an abandoned cart flow and maybe increase the touch points in those initial days. And always want to kind of make sure that those behavioral flows that are inherently personal are preempting some of your broadcast messaging. So those flows, like somebody, in terms of hierarchy, somebody should get an abandoned cart email instead of a Tuesday at 11 a.m., here's the deal that we have going on today. Just because that is going to be showcasing product in their cart that they're really interested in. And, we've been playing around also to figure out, like, how can we just automate purchase behavior in general with like a sequence of promotions based off of when that person decides that this is when shopping season has opened for me. And then how do we make that experience kind of mimic what we're doing anyways with our broader marketing calendar? But something to think about. It's fun.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of tracking what the user's naturally doing and then just throwing a little fuel behind that fire. So Eric, what's the plan for the brands that you're working on?
Yeah, so I mean, this season we've been much more deliberate in how we came into it. Dan's point about being flexible on a daily basis is well taken, but what we've found in the past is that causes us to kind of lose our minds when we're in the fog of November and December. So we kind of have come into this season with kind of like a rough outline of what we're going to do on a day-by-day basis, with some scenario planning around the level of discount, if any, for those days. But what that has allowed us to do is work with our partners so that they know what's coming down the pike in terms of promotion, so that we can actually pre-sell a customer on a future promotion that hasn't actually hit. So we've created a future-looking workflow based off of a plan that we've already developed. So a customer that maybe didn't make that purchase, didn't convert, but went to a page where we know a sale is coming in a week or so, we can get them in that moment and get that conversion based on that product and the interest that they showed in their click-through. So a lot of testing on abandons and page abandons, cart abandons, but I think that's been the biggest difference, is that pre-planning process allowed us to execute in a different way.
Yeah, definitely. Planning for the chaos is key this time of year. So I feel like what a lot of brands are really curious about, because this is so competitive and there are a lot of big players entering the space, is how do you really stand out as a brand this holiday season? And is there any way that you can be leveraging campaigns to stand out? So Cheyenne, is there anything you all are doing at Andy that you really feel like you're pushing the limit with and like really standing out from the crowd?
Well, I think we're definitely thinking about, especially for our Black Friday promotion, just how are we going to like make sure our RTS messaging is really strong. So paired with just like the strong discount that we're going to be putting out during that time period, just what is that like reason to shop that you're giving your customers, like to be paired with that? Because everyone's going to be doing really deep discounts on all of their products during this time period. So just making sure that you're standing out with that like additional messaging of like why they should be utilizing that super deep discount with your brand during that time period.
Definitely. Gabe, you seeing any interesting tactics across any of the brands you're working with?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton out there, and you can kind of obviously test and play with stuff. So two things I would say, Cheyenne kind of highlighted the fact that they're starting to tease the Black Friday sale and get people excited and sign up for it. I work with a lot of brands where we kind of tell them to play the social media channels against each other. So when you think about acquisition stuff and how much money we spend on social media marketing, and then you see like a Facebook post gets 3 likes and you're just like, I spent so much on that creative shoot and I got 3 likes for it. So playing around with like, hey, make sure you sign up for our email list or our SMS list. Like, this is an opportunity for you to get those inside deals. I think that's kind of a unique perspective. And that way it's just not the same creative everywhere. Because I've seen that a lot where people will shoot out the email and then you look at their Facebook post and it's the same content and Instagram's the same. So trying to break that up a little bit. And then the other one that I've seen that work really well, Tommy John does a really, really good job with this, is text-only emails. It's enough of a break when you're kind of clicking through your inbox. And if you're using it in those automations and sort of, giving your brand like a really good voice, like Black Halo is really good at this, where it's like, there's a story behind that brand. And so a text-only email may work really, really well with their clientele because it tells the story of why we want to buy from them. So I think those would be the two kind of unique things that may make you stand out.
Yeah, I feel like text emails are kind of a pattern interrupt also. Like you don't really expect to see it. So Eric, what are you all planning on over at the different brands that you work with?
Yeah, so I mean, specifically to Jackson Perkins, we're well known as a source for gifting. So a lot of people will make purchases for themselves, but also will make purchases for other people in their lives, whether they're friends, family, or clients. And we've kind of leaned into this theme of connection and how the gifting aspect of our products are just one small vehicle to facilitate that connection in a time where you're not really connecting with a lot of people this year. So I think that messaging, which we've brought to life through email, social media, our website, paid and organic search, I think is starting to resonate, and it kind of allows us to talk about ourselves in a way that doesn't reference discounts or percentages off.
Very cool. So Callie, how are you all really standing out for Black Halo for this season?
Yeah, similar to what Gabe had mentioned, getting people to subscribe to find out, what kind of promotions you're doing is really important. So we do 7 days of gifting. Feel free to steal this plan. So basically, we take a purchaser from every single day. We announce what the gift will be 24 hours in advance. You have to make a purchase within that time and be subscribed to our newsletter. Enter in whatever the deal is. So it could be a percentage off or a gift card. But it's really fun. It gets people to purchase because they want that, $300 gift card or the 45% off on top of everything else. So it's really fun and people get really involved.
Yeah, it's exciting. It kind of makes every day like a fun game also. Cool. So Amy, anything that you're seeing across the brands you work with at Visitor about how it can really stand out?
Yeah, I mean, certainly we should have those emails that are kind of rewarding our VIPs. So, again, VIP sneak peeks, email exclusives, and kind of, you know, seeing similar to what Gabe had said, maybe those ones, if we have a VIP exclusive going out to a purchaser that we know has a large lifetime value, we're making that look a little bit more personal. So maybe that is coming from a plain text messaging. And then kind of pivoting off of what Eric said as well, it's a good time for every brand to take a step back and just kind of look at like, what are our value props? What is our messaging? What's our tone? And start incorporating that into these emails as well. Just, people are reacting better towards smaller, mid-sized businesses that have kind of messaging behind them. So if you have that already within your brand, like let's put that forward as well. So adding that editorial storytelling element to it and incorporating the promotions, but also just giving it a different bent.
Yeah, definitely. It reminds me of that Seth Godin quote of like, people don't buy products anymore. They buy the stories that you tell them. So I think that's a great perspective. So now I want to jump into a topic that's very near and dear to my heart of how do we use customer data to better segment for future campaigns and what's coming up? So Gabe, what are some segmentation best practices we can start to think of and leverage all of the data that we're capturing from customers?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of starting baseline, you have to look at opening clicks because that's going to be engagement, which gets you to the inbox. You should be seeing at least, I would say 12, 15% open rates across the board consistently. That kind of knows that you're getting to the inbox. And then in terms of just recency of purchase, right? And obviously each brand's going to be a little bit different. So you have the brands that sort of like maybe grandma buys once a year for Christmas for all her grandkids. So like there, you're looking at people who have purchased in the last 14 months. So you kind of have that cushion of that holiday purchaser versus, like the swimwear and the fashion brands, like depending on how often should someone be making that purchase? Or if you have consumables, you may be looking at someone who, only including people that have purchased in the last 6 months, really kind of narrowing it down a little bit, but playing around with those segments and then, just making sure that your most engaged buyers get every single email. And then maybe you have a second and a third tier sort of engagement segment. So that way, if you can spread them out. And of course, all the platforms that any of us are using have those segments are dynamic. So if someone starts engaging more, making a purchase, they're going to be moved into that more frequent group anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Engagement tracks are a big key. Callie, how are you all leveraging customer data to do something unique at Black Halo?
Yeah, I think customer segmentation is really important to be doing year round and building out those different segments, sending customized emails to the different segments, but it's obviously extremely important over the holidays. Two of the ones that we're really focusing on obviously is our VIP segment, making sure our customers, you like to know that you're getting a deal sooner than everyone else. And, that kind of creates that sense of urgency by itself. But then the other one is our win back segment. So, it's easy to win back a customer when you're having a sale or that kind of thing. And so bringing them back into your more frequently, they opened, they clicked. So then they're kind of getting more of your campaigns and they're also getting more of your automations. So that win back customer is good too.
Yeah, definitely. And then you don't have to break it out as a separate promo or a separate discount to win them back. So Amy, what are you all seeing as important customer data to leverage?
Yeah, so we look at past holiday purchasers. So if, there are people that are going to purchase from the brand every year during holiday. So we want to make sure that they're getting, all of our best messages, even if they've been a little less engaged throughout the rest of the year. We want to kind of pull them back in, knowing that we have content that's going to be really relevant to them. Another thing to look at is AOV. So if you're really worried about margins, you're trying to protect some of those margins, you can look at what the average order value is for certain contacts, and you can, kind of segment them out. Like, this is a discount group. This group is only going to buy with extremely deep discounts. So maybe when we are offering an offer that isn't very deep, that group can be excluded from that because they're probably not going to make that purchase there. So that's another good one to look at. Always email engagement. Kind of Gabe mentioned it, but don't push your engagement windows too far. Certainly we want to bring more people in, but don't put yourself in a position where you are starting to see deliverability issues going into a holiday season where getting into the inbox is the most important thing.
Yeah, definitely, especially with the volume of emails that are going to be sent. So Eric, what customer data are you all thinking about and how to leverage it?
Yeah, so we're actually real big believers in modeling our data. So we also send a print catalog, and because print is so much more expensive than email, that does require us to model out who we think our best prospects are going to be every single season. So we'll take all of our customer purchase data, location, where they live, the zip codes, et cetera, and marry that up with some consumer lifestyle and behavioral data. And then kind of create who we believe our core customer is going to be for that season. And that allows us to communicate that directly with our email campaigns. So we have that identified group ready to go for communication. And then from there, as we go through the season, we'll segment based off of open rates, click-throughs, and certainly spend.
Yeah, very cool. We'll have to spend some time looking through that modeling segment. That sounds really awesome. So Cheyenne, what are you all leveraging from a customer data perspective over at Andy?
Well, right now in our off season, I've definitely been leveraging customers that are living in kind of our warmer states, those states that are just kind of always have like nice weather. Just because we're a swimwear brand, you kind of want to not over message people that are in areas where you know like they're likely not going to need a swimsuit right now. But then just to echo what like Amy was saying, for Black Friday, I'm definitely going to want to bring in those customers that purchased with us in previous years during this Black Friday period, just to make sure that even if they weren't engaged during kind of throughout the year, that they do come back during the time where we have the sales that are going to be relevant for them.
Yeah, it always blows my mind if you just create a segment of like people who bought October to November every year but didn't buy in the 9 months of the next year. It surprises me how big that segment always is. So Dan, I know that there's a lot of different ways that we could be leveraging customer data. What are some interesting ways that brands should be thinking about?
Yeah, first and foremost, aside from your email engagement data, I think people really need to think about something that Eric was alluding to, is this concept of recency, frequency, monetary that you use in a lot of direct mail, and use that in your email segmentation, because it's going to be a way for you to sort of go and cluster your people. And that makes it very easy. So you think about a single purchaser that is just recent. You want to apply a different strategy than to a single purchaser who bought a year ago, because that's that repeat holiday buyer. And so think about segmenting your customers across those kind of axes and putting it into a simple sort of bucket. One thing that was really interesting for myself in sort of previous D2C experience that we did at holiday was, as soon as somebody became a holiday purchaser, we automatically put them into another bucket because they've already made that holiday purchase. So how do we get them to go make a second one? And that messaging is very, very different than trying to get somebody to buy for the first time. So being very micro targeted around that in terms of how do I segment. So may be a flow, may not be a flow, but it's just something to sort of think about, is your individuals are sort of having different journeys, and how do you create these buckets to let them easily get into them, so you can segment them, create specific campaigns, and really leverage that to improve your open rates and your click to open rates.
Yeah, definitely. Especially for getting someone to come back and buy again. Like, you've already done the hardest part of to get them to buy a first time. So it seems like it'd be difficult to buy again, but it actually, in a lot of practicality, ends up being a lot easier to do than a lot of, I think, brands think. So what I'd love to do then is, how do we leverage email data across other parts of the brand, whether it be inventory, on-site? So Dan, I'm going to throw it back to you, just because I know that you used to really dive into this pretty deeply.
Yeah, so as this one's really important, is you're getting closer and closer to, you're past Cyber Monday, Black Friday. Now you're getting into the December time period, really being on top of what your inventory level is and what you want to promote, because you want to go from these kind of potentially more generic discounts to a little bit more product focus, where you either need to downplay products that you're worried about running out of stock of, or what you really want to do is push the products that you're long on and sort of try and sort of be more targeted around the driving the purchase, trying to steer the customer towards buying the stuff that essentially you kind of need to get rid of that doesn't have much value after the holiday.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of the job that nobody wants to do, but is definitely super important. So Eric, how are you all thinking about like taking the insights from email and leveraging that in across different areas of the brand and also the supply chain?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I really want to focus on this season is essentially utilizing the click-through rate on certain elements of the email. So if I can see that people are clicking through on this one product more than they're clicking through on this product that's right next to it, then I've essentially created a free focus group for myself where customers are giving us great information about what they feel is our most engaging products so that I can push that forward on social. I can push it forward as maybe the hero and on a email element. And maybe that's one, to Dan's point, that I don't discount as heavily because there's natural organic demand coming for that product.
Yeah, definitely the cheapest focus group you can probably run. So Amy, how else do you all think about leveraging email into those other channels and other experiences for a brand?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of following up on what Eric said, with our clients that are operating within our integrated model, so they are using multiple channels or whatnot, we can look at, all right, let's take a look at this email. What does this heat map look like? And seeing where people are showing some interest and then feeding that data over to, all right, our SEO team and saying, hey, maybe let's develop some more content around this and let's look to see what the keyword ranking or et cetera is for that. Or for our paid media team saying this, we're surprised, but this long sleeve shirt, for instance, for a retail brand is doing really well. So let's kind of shift up some of our paid media campaigns to make sure that we're featuring that as well. So it really is like you should be looking at your email click maps all the time to see what is working, what's not. I mean, especially because email content is so chunkable, it should be brief, but there are other channels that are better suited to expand on that interest.
Yeah, definitely. You can get them from email to that other channel. So Callie, how are you all thinking about taking insights from email and rippling that out across what you're working on? Callie, do we lose you? Oh.
Yes, for a second, but I'm back. So there's two things that I really have leveraged this last, couple months going into holiday season. One is, again, looking at our click-throughs to help with creative. So we know right off the bat that, almost 100% of the time, a GIF is going to be the most clicked item. So adding GIFs to the website for our facial coverings, so our masks for the pandemic, we added a GIF for that just kind of shows the different ones, and it increased the click-through to that link by 20%. So really trying to leverage what people are clicking and liking and the type of animation and other things like that into our emails, but also looking at inventory and planning out pricing. So we've got some core items that a lot of people come to our site for. And, we're not going to discount those as heavily. We're going to increase stock on them because that's why people are coming, and, make sure that we're well equipped for the amount of sales that we're going to get there.
Yeah, definitely. Also, email is going to be a pretty good leading indicator of what that inventory status will be like. So, Gabe, any data points that you think are really valuable that brands should be top of mind this holiday period?
Yeah, I really like what Dan said in terms of having inventory that's just kind of collecting dust. So obviously you have to fit with the brand voice. One of my favorite email campaigns that I see often works well, especially as we're talking about, again, just kind of highlighting the idea that small to medium business authenticity, people are looking for that sort of existential experience, especially as maybe we're going into wave 3, who knows, and we're stuck at home again. People want a release. And so one of my favorite ones is like Black Halo, like their founder is Laurel, right? And so like telling that story of Laurel, who she is, why she started the brand, and then taking that inventory that's been collecting dust and just highlighting it in an email as Laurel's top picks, just sort of extenuates that or extends that narrative of, hey, this is the lady who created all these looks that you love, and these are her favorite. It's a classic way of just getting rid of inventory. Even if she doesn't like them, the whole story is just telling the story, telling the people what they want to hear and telling the people what they need to hear so that they buy into that.
Yeah, staff picks are always a good move.
Yeah.
So Cheyenne, anything on your farm, especially email and SMS, how you're leveraging that across the brand?
So I definitely work very closely with our product team just to make sure, like everyone else kind of said, that our inventory is definitely lined up to what we're pushing in email, and like definitely creating campaigns around kind of some of that inventory that we definitely want to move through, but also making sure that anything that I'm featuring in my emails is definitely merged a little bit higher on our site, because I do want to keep that experience consistent across the board. So if you look in our emails, you see something that you might like, you don't necessarily click through right away, but you go onto our site and you see it right there. I think that's a way better experience and will definitely get you to convert a little bit more, because you're reminded of kind of what you saw on this in the emails. Just making sure that it's very easy to kind of see the products that are being featured in that moment on the site.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing that I always like to do is heat map the email, heat map the site, see what the overlap is and see where the drop off is. Always interesting just to track that user experience. So one question we like to ask on all of our webinar before we jump into the Q&A section is for the merchants. So what's one holiday lesson that you've learned from previous years that this year you're just going to really laser in on and make sure that you get right? So Callie, I'm going to put you on the hot seat first.
Wow, I get to go first. So nerve-wracking. You know, I've been doing this now for about 3 years, and I've learned every year, and also every year has been completely different. So this one is probably the most different. But one thing that I'm definitely going to get right is kind of been leading up to the holiday season is just having that engaging pop-up and creating that, like, oh, I want to give them my information. I want to hear from them, because that is just very helpful when it comes to promoting, you know, your sales and different products that you have. Since we are a women's contemporary clothing line that primarily focuses on dresses, you know, we're perfect for the holiday season. So whether you're hosting a dinner, going to a dinner, even doing something casual, we want to make sure that, you know, people are kind of coming to us to get their outfits for that. So, you know, they're going to see that through our emails, and they're also going to see those sales. So really a pop-up is like focusing on your pop-up, creating those like a very engaging pop-up will definitely help, and it'll be great for your sales.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like we're so focused on acquiring as many customers as possible to keep it in the next year, but also acquiring as much contact information as possible for everybody that does convert as well as doesn't is super important. So Cheyenne, what's the one great lesson that you all are really going to focus on this year at Andy?
I would say definitely don't, like, not reinventing the wheel. I would say now, like, we've kind of been working toward and testing towards this period of time all year round. So like taking all of the learnings from any tests that you've run throughout the year and making sure your campaign strategy for this time period has all those learnings implemented into it, but just not testing anything new, because I think now is really the time to just only do what you know for sure is going to work. So definitely just don't think about like reinventing the wheel, reinventing your strategy, just doing what you know for sure is going to work, and just taking any learnings from any tests that you've run throughout the year and implementing that into what you're doing right now.
Awesome. Yeah, kind of what Eric was talking about earlier of planning for the chaos. So Eric, bring us home. What's the one great lesson that you all are focusing on this year?
Well, Jeremy, I think you just said it. I mean, I think what we're really focused on doing this year is to make a plan, and then we're making scenarios based on that plan, and then we're going inception level deep and creating another level of scenarios based on our scenario-based plan. So we're taking into account things like supply chain disruptions, being at, behind, or ahead of forecast, external factors, which there are many, combining this with really strong financial analysis of what we've done in previous seasons is allowing us to enter this holiday season focused on execution and a lot of the things we've talked about in this webinar versus strategy and execution, which I don't feel like I'm able to do in November and December, both of those things. I can really just do one very well, and I'd like that to be execution.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with this year, just everything is going to be at a whole nother level. So execution's really got to be at that top layer. Awesome. So we're going to jump into Q&A. I have my first question from Shauna here. So does anyone have any tips to get customers to sign up for SMS specifically? Like, is there a specific offer or benefit? Like, what's in it for them? Callie and Cheyenne, I know you both mentioned SMS.
Yeah, I think it's hard to get people to want to give you their phone number. You know, it's such a personal channel. Email is just so oversaturated now. And I think that's the direction, you know, our text messages are going. We're all of a sudden going to have a promotions tab inside iMessage. But really creating, you know, first off, don't over text people, because that's a quick and easy way to get a lot of unsubscribes and a lot of people texting you stop. But really, you know, incentivizing them with a good discount. I mean, that's very easy, or free shipping, because that one's not hard on the company depending on your price point. But then also, you know, kind of making sure they know they're signing up to hear your brand voice and your who you are as a company. So trying to put that out there in a sense of, we're not trying to spam you. We just want, you know, you to engage with our brand and create kind of that brand voice through text message.
Very cool. Does anybody else want to take that one?
Something that I've seen that brands have done well also is just say, like, this is the best customer service experience as well. So when people are signing up, being like, okay, get all of the notifications on where if you're, let's say you're doing it at checkout too, get all notifications on where your item is, where it's shipped. If you have any questions, reach out to a customer service rep directly. A lot of the SMS vendor platforms allow for integration with your customer service platforms. So that also making people feel like they have a more direct channel to you when they have questions.
Yeah, I'm just gonna quickly take this one also. What we've seen a lot of success with is what I would call a 2-for-1. So if you have a really dialed in pop-up to capture email that has some sort of incentive, on the thank you screen, instead of just having a copyable discount code or a link back to the site, like have the thank you text that says like, thank you for signing up for an email, but then give them a slightly better incentive to sign up for texts that's kind of matches what the email offer was, whether it's a higher discount code or more content or whatever you're running. People love that. It's kind of like a mystery discount that is like a little bit of like oh, I unlocked this by giving my email and now I get this. Because the other important thing to know is SMS is such a, what I call a quick twitch channel. Like you receive it, and I think it's 90% of people open it within the first 3 minutes. So if you give somebody like that's already in a buying motion, something additional to just keep them moving, that is going to be a really big benefit as well. Cool. Do we have any other questions? I know we're getting pretty close to the top of the hour here. No? Any final words of wisdom from the panel? Any quick wins that anybody wants to share? Anybody really excited about anything?
I would say the easiest win for a lot of people out there is when you look at your automations, which I know we highlighted at the very beginning of the webinar, is don't be afraid to add. I mean, I think Callie kind of hit the nail on the head where she says like her abandoned cart or welcome automation has like 2 SMS and 3 email messages. And I know a lot of retailers kind of like hesitate at that, but I'm sure, like, I know Callie's for months, and like Black Halo does a really good job with it. And she wouldn't be sending that many messages if she didn't see the revenue from it. So like, don't be afraid of testing out an additional message, just adding one to the end of your flow and just seeing like the engagement there. I think that's an easy, super quick win. And it can even just be a reminder if people don't purchase, giving them that one last nudge to say, hey, don't forget, you've got this opportunity, take advantage of it.
I think another win as well is that I learned because was product browse abandonment. I had no idea that that was going to be almost as profitable as the cart abandonment. I just like in my head was like, there's no way, but it actually is like our second after our welcome series most engaged one, and it brings in, you know, the most revenue. It's a good one to add to your list of automations for sure.
Yeah, browse abandonment's a real money maker. Is anybody experimenting with messenger marketing?
Facebook does too much changing their API. It's
yeah, this is definitely a challenge. Okay, so last couple of things. I want to thank everybody on the panel for joining us. One last bit of housekeeping that I have is our final webinar in this series is going to be in 2 weeks, towards the night before preparation, final preps. It's going to be a lot of quick wins with attentive rebuy and route, things that you can get done quickly. I want to thank everybody on the panel who joined us today. If you want to get in contact with them or learn more about them or their businesses, we've included their LinkedIn links here. And just want to say again, thank you, everyone.